And what's your last piece of advice, to people out there, especially someone watching or listening today that is at rock bottom, feeling afraid, feeling ashamed, and feeling convinced that there's no way out? What's that one powerful truth you would like them to remember?
It's really the title of my book. There's always a solution.
Welcome to the King Dems podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary people and dissect hot, relevant topics that shape our world. From visionary leaders to trailblazing creatives, we uncover the mindset, strategy, and grit behind greatness. Whether it's business, culture, or personal growth, we ask the real questions. This isn't just conversation, it's transformation. The King Dems podcast. Your next breakthrough starts here.
Music licensing reimagined.
We're live, ladies and gentlemen. You are once again welcome to the King Dems podcast. And today I have with me my big sister from the other side of the pond. Make welcome, Pilot Morgan Q. Anderson. How are you, Morgan?
Hello, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. It's always great having the opportunity to chat with you. Not only
Absolutely.
for the audience, but just the two of us. I really have found that in life, you come across people who have a positive impact, and you are one of them.
Wow. And what is bigger than a positive impact? I don't know, exponential impact. And that is what you are. And of course, that is what you are to me. You know,
Thank you so much.
I think this actually should be episode 4 in our series. Unfortunately, it's episode 2.
There's
And
so
I
much
think
to talk about.
there's
There
only so much to talk about. I'm telling you. But the interesting thing is, I think the audience, when they're watching this, they'll see that it's a new background.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that background. The
And
lion is near and
Morgan,
dear to me.
the
My
lion and
company's
the
name is
lioness.
Golden Lion. I mean, you can't get any closer with
You
with
know,
the
it's
imagery that you're now sharing. I love
it's
it.
interesting. The golden lion and the black lion.
Pretty
Because
amazing
black
stuff.
black is actually my best color. And if you want to go by race, you would call me a black man. Wearing a black suit on a black couch with a black
It,
background.
that's okay. To me, it signifies strength. I don't know. Black has always been a color to me that has a power behind it.
Mhm. I love
Look up
black.
at the sky at night, the black with the white stars, and I think it always has signified power in my mind.
Power. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love black. For me, I just feel like black is more than just a color. Black is an expression.
I agree.
Yes, it's more than just a color. And remember when we used to have just black and white TV. Black
Some days
because
I feel like we should go back to that. I really do. I know it sounds funny, but there's innocence and simplicity. And I
the
remember my
contract.
grandmother had a black and white television when I was a kid. And when you watched it, there was more creativity within your own mind
Hmm.
than everything being done for you, everything being laid out for you. So, yeah, I remember watching, oh, what was the name of the show? It was the there was Tonto was the Indian and the Lone Ranger. That was it. I watched
The
the Lone
Lone
Ranger as a
Ranger.
kid on my grandmother's black and white television, and you are more creative and engaged with it, I think, when you have to fill in the blanks. So,
Hmm. Exactly that. That's actually very true. I feel very much for the kids of nowadays, because even with the advent of advanced technology, I always tell people we are unfortunately in the age of the peak of human foolishness.
I completely agree. Can I tell you a quick story?
I am all for stories. Have you seen
Okay.
my link? Have you?
Okay. I have. I
Do you know what
have.
is on my LinkedIn bio?
I share it with the world.
Okay, let me take a quick look, because what you're saying actually aligns with my LinkedIn bio. Let me do a real quick check. Well, guess what? I opened my LinkedIn and the first person I'm seeing is a certain Morgan Q. Mans. And
Yay! Sharing the news about my business summit on June 11th. Yes, sir. That would be
Whoa.
me.
And of course, guys, go register.
Can
Do not talk
I
to me
do a
again if you don't
shameless
register.
Okay, can I do a shameless plug really quick? Okay.
Please do,
June
please do.
11th, we're doing a 2-hour rapid fire summit for all business owners. We have a social media strategist sharing 5 tips and tricks that you can immediately implement to improve your online presence. We have me talking about how to handle any type of tax notices, how to stay ahead of audits, things like that. We have a bookkeeper talking about best strategies, new ideas, to implement in your business to better manage your bookkeeping. We have a cost analysis specialist who's going to talk to people about how to minimize some areas of expenses in your business. I mean, this is going to be a rapid fire 2-hour summit that people are going to walk away with 40 actionable tips from 8 different industry leaders just to help everybody improve their business. So yeah, I'm super excited about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds very fantastic. And of
It's
course, back
amazing.
to your storytelling, right?
Yes, back to my storytelling. Okay. So
Okay.
Roger Daltrey, the lead singer of The Who, okay, he
Mhm.
was interviewed and he got on the topic of kids these days in the modern day of technology and how fast our world moves. And he said, I feel sorry for kids these days because they have no time to be bored. That's when you become creative. That's how he ended up working and creating all of these wonderful songs that have been part of a definition of eras for so many music fans. And he said kids these days have no idea how to tap into their internal creativity because
Mhm.
they're always having iPads and iPhones and things shoved in front of them. So yeah, it was pretty interesting.
That's really sad.
Paraphrased what he said, but it has stuck with me for a couple of years now since I heard that interview.
And that inorganic environment is not particularly healthy.
Mm-mm.
We grew up in an age and time wherein you could interact with people, face to face, and that actually builds character. Having difficult conversations in person, that builds character. But anyways, back to my LinkedIn bio.
Yeah.
You have founder and CEO, Dems Consulting Limited, host and executive producer, the Kingdoms podcast, CFO, business strategist, BSc Economics, ACA, MBA, and of course, the title a certain Morgan gave me, modern day business philosopher. And guess what? The last one, storytelling for impact and influence.
Love that.
There you go.
Love it.
So I leave for storytelling. I leave for storytelling. The last time we did not have time to talk about the mindsets, right? And of course, breaking financial paralysis. Before we started today, we were talking about paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
What role does guilt and shame play in keeping people stuck in tax trouble?
It is huge. There is this deep rooted fear of the unknown. We all have it in all the areas of our lives. But as business owners, as responsible adults, as self-employed individuals, when you have a business, and we were speaking about this earlier as well, financial trouble and financial stress impacts not just your business when you're sitting down at your desk, but it impacts everything to do in your life, your family, your sleep, your health. Money is necessary because it allows us to have transactions that allow us to realize our goals, realize our dreams, hire the next employee. When you're dealing with something like tax debt, it threatens all of that simply because of the fear of what that bill is and the ramifications, or the repercussions, I should say, of the collection of that debt. In the US, and I'm sure across the globe, whenever there is a tax agency that is assigned to collect a tax on your income, on your assets, on your financial transactions in business, there is an intentional viewpoint that these tax agencies have created, and it's basically, don't mess with us, because we can make your life, to be blunt, a living hell, right? We can come after you very aggressively when you owe us money and you don't pay it. So what ends up happening is when somebody receives notices from these tax agencies about a discrepancy on their reporting, on their annual return, or whatever that equates to in each country around the world, there's a fear that is deep ingrained. It's kind of like as a kid when you're in school and you get called to the principal's office, right? You've done something wrong and your heart starts racing and sweat breaks out on the brow. I mean, this is,
Hyperventilation.
yes, absolutely. You're like, okay, what did I do? As you're walking down to their office, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? What kind of trouble am I in? And that fear causes a paralysis to such a degree that people will get notices from the tax agencies and set them aside. Set them to, I can't deal with this right now. If I don't give it attention, that it's not really something that I need to worry about. But that sits at the back of your mind, right? It's never going to go away until you deal with it. So you do end up with a lot of situations that I refer to as ostrich syndrome. If I bury my head in the sand and I don't look at it, then it's really not there and I don't need to deal with it. Unfortunately, that works against you, and it usually makes the matters 100 times worse by the time you finally take a deep breath, open the notices, and start dealing with them.
And stuff. So, like, how do you help your clients, move from that emotional shutdown to making, or would I say, a well-informed decision, right? Logical actions and giving them that empowerment.
First thing I do is just listen to them. Everybody has a tale to share. And when somebody comes to me about their tax situation, they're usually nervous, they're ashamed. And I say, listen, I've helped thousands of people and we all start in the same place. Tell me what happened. Tell me how you ended up with a situation where the tax agencies are sending you threatening letters. And by the time they say, well, my business was going well, there was a natural disaster, and yes, we had insurance, but 2 years later, our biggest customers are just now getting back on their feet. So we had this massive business disruption. I've had a lot of clients who have flushed out embezzlement within their organizations. And the monies that these people stole were the monies set aside for taxes. I've had situations where a client will say, well, I had a parent pass away and I inherited money. And instead of getting with my CPA about how I could use the money and what I needed to set aside for taxes, I blew it on a big 3-month vacation for my family, or whatever this story may be. And at that point, they start hearing, okay, it's not, by having somebody listen to what happened, they're realizing, okay, first and foremost, I have an ally. I have somebody who is interested in what happened to me that led to this bill coming about. And at that point, once they've shared the background with me, I say, okay, well, you know what? There's a solution. Let's start talking about it. And once we talk about the solution that we'll put in place to minimize that overwhelming burden, right? When they start seeing that there's a map we can follow to get to the other side of it, their shoulders that have been up by their ears kind of start letting down, right? They start relaxing a little bit. And I always tell our clients, I'm going to take you by the hand and I'm going to lead you through this. Now, you have a responsibility. You need to be fully transparent with me. If I reach out to you with a call or an email, you need to respond as soon as you can. If I ask you for financial documentation that we'll use in support of our proposal for solution, you need to respond to me and get it to me by the deadlines that I set, because I'm playing on a chessboard on your behalf, right? I'm going to be making maneuvers to get us to the other side to take the king, to take the queen. Right. But you have a responsibility to me to give me the knowledge that I need to make each of those strategic moves. And
Sometimes
when
you're playing chess, they're playing checkers.
sometimes they're not even following me on the board. They're watching TV, right? Because something distracted them. So,
Whoa.
I mean, it's when they hear that, okay, I'm going to take charge, right? I'm going to throw on that knight armor and I'm going to start moving forward. They feel like, okay, I don't have to fear this anymore because I have somebody who's done this thousands of times that is going to be my ally throughout all of this. And at that point, they stop stressing, they stop losing sleep, and they start seeing a way out of it.
That actually aligns with that saying where they say a problem shared is a problem half solved.
Isn't that the truth? So true. So true. But it's important with anything that you do in business that you find somebody who is as committed to the relationship as you need them to be to effectively solve the problem that you're coming to them with.
But you know something, when you're working with these people, it's usually a matter of help me to help you,
Correct.
right? But some people, would I say different strokes or different folks? Some people probably don't even want to help
So true.
themselves.
So
Then,
true.
then why did you come to me in the first place?
I've had clients like that. I have clients who feel like that we're their security blanket, so to speak, right? They've got a lot of missing annual financial reports due to the federal and state government, and they feel like as long as I have a power of attorney on record, they know I'm going to pester them every few months with, still haven't gotten these reportings done. We need to get this moving. Okay, thanks. I just appreciate you being there for me. I've had clients like that who have sat there for years not taking action, but they know I'm there. As soon as something happens with the tax agencies, I'm on the ball and they know they'll need to get moving. Not saying that this is how you want to live your life. I'm telling you folks, don't do that if you can help it, because once you start getting caught up with missing filings or missing annual reports, the penalties and interest will bury you. So, yeah, be proactive.
The cost of compliance is always way, way less than the cost of non-compliance.
Absolutely. In the US right now, let's just take income tax for all of the citizens here who have to file annually. If you file a tax return with a balance due, you can get penalized up to 25% of the unpaid tax for various types of penalties. And that is all then compounded on an annual basis at 7%. So if somebody has a tax debt going back 5 years, do the math. It could start at $10,000, but by the time 5 years has gone by, that 10,000 has turned into 22.
That is extreme. But
Nauseating.
are you able to share a case, wherein a client came in feeling hopeless, but walked out transformed?
Oh my gosh, it's almost every single client, honestly, because when somebody comes to us, they have this oppressive tax situation. And what is oppressive to one person is a different figure than what somebody else will feel that
Mm.
that burden with. I have individuals who reach out to me and say, "Oh my gosh, I owe all this money to the IRS here in the US and I can't sleep at night. I need help." And I say, "Okay, well, let's talk about it. How much money do you owe?" And they'll say, "Oh, it's so much. I owe the IRS $8,000. And that's somebody that I will say, first and foremost, you don't need me. You shouldn't pay somebody to get involved with that because that is an amount that you can handle yourself. They're not going to threaten tax liens. They're not going to threaten bank account garnishments or asset seizure. You can handle it yourself. Here's how you do it. And
Just
I
a
tell
drop in the
them,
pond.
yeah, but to some people, that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah, that's like what we call materiality in accounting. What is material to me might not be material to you, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah,
On the other hand,
it is
I
what it
had
is.
I had a conglomeration of family-owned LLCs that owed over $30 million in unpaid payroll tax, and half the time I couldn't get them on the phone because they just didn't worry about it. To me, if I owed $30 million, I would be getting ready to meet my maker because I don't think I could deal with that. There's always a solution, but yeah, to some people it just their point of breaking is high.
Hmm. Yeah, we all have like different what I say boiling points, different breaking points. It's just like physics, we are made of different materials. So, some people made of aluminum, some people copper, some people iron. You just need to
No,
discover who we really are. And yeah, everybody have their spirit animals, just like yourself and myself, I'm a lion, you're a lioness,
I'm a lion, absolutely.
you know,
But I
so,
know
so
some people who are fish just flopping around.
Fish. I remember growing up. If my mom wants to make an expression about a person's foolishness, she would say that person has got a fish brain.
Grandmother used to say something similar about bird brains.
Whoa,
Yeah. Yeah.
fish brains. Can you just imagine? But let's talk about your expert moves. And knowing what to do so that you don't get to panic. Because there's something I know about making tough decisions. If you get into a panic mode, you would 9 times out of 10 make a wrong move. So, when should someone consider handling tax debt by themselves versus hiring a specialist like yourself?
There are varying degrees, and I'm sure with different tax agencies around the globe, there are thresholds for dealing with each. In the US, if somebody owes income tax less than $25,000, they can typically handle the situation themselves. For business owners with payroll or sales tax obligations that are over 10,000, they want an expert because sales tax and payroll taxes here in the US, there are processes where you, as a business owner, collect that money from your employee or from the general public. You hold that money in trust to then turn over to the federal and state government. And when that doesn't happen, the IRS and the state can pierce any corporate veil and hold individuals personally responsible because they had a duty to oversee that process and it broke down. So for that reason, if a business owner owes over 10,000 in payroll or sales tax, they want an expert to get involved to maneuver through the process with as little negative impact as possible. Anybody who owes income tax over 25,000, you want an expert involved because they start talking about tax liens being filed on your assets. They start threatening bank account garnishments, wage garnishments, asset seizures. So you really do want somebody who is knowledgeable and navigating through that labyrinth to provide as much protection and to say, okay, I've handled thousands of cases like this. Every solution to a tax debt above those thresholds is based on the taxpayer's financial condition. That's what allows you to qualify them for various options to solve the debt. And you want somebody who knows what they're doing, handling it at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what's one tax trap that small business owners or freelancers should avoid at all costs?
So every year the IRS puts out the top 10 dirty scams that people are putting out. Actually, pardon me, I correct myself. It's called the Dirty Dozen. And it's these tax scams that are happening within the nation. During COVID, in the US, there was the ERC credits and the PPP loans, and these were government programs where employers who maintained employees throughout COVID received an employee retention credit, and they could secure loans through the government that could be written off if they met certain qualifications. The problem was when the government came out with these programs, they didn't have you explain beyond just surface level how you qualified to claim them. So all of a sudden, these mills popped up that would help you claim these credits or apply for these loans, and they would not tell you that you had to pre-qualify yourself. They just did the paperwork and charged you an arm and a leg to do so. And when we got copies of the paperwork to apply for these ERC credits, the employee retention credits, I was working with some people at the time, and we all looked at each other and said, oh, this is going to be a disaster, because there was a line item literally added to the quarterly reports that said, I qualify to claim this much credit for this quarter, with no justification, explanation needed. And it has turned into a nightmare. So many small business owners said, this company called me and said, would you qualify to claim this credit? We'll do it, but we're going to take 25% to file the credit. People didn't know. They said, okay, great. If somebody's calling you and saying you qualify for this, they're thinking that they did their homework and you actually qualified when most people didn't. Now the government is saying, okay, that credit we gave you, you owe it back to us plus interest. Plus you're getting penalized for filing a fraudulent claim. Yeah, it's
That's
sad.
wild.
If it sounds too good to be true, do not believe it. Do not believe it. Get with a CPA, get with your attorney, talk to them about it. Chartered accountant, get with your accountant and say, somebody contact me offering me this tax benefit, or if I claim this obscure credit for this unknown reason that they're introducing me to, if I hide my assets, if I squeeze them into this estate planning method and then twist it into this trust, then I can hide income and I can hide assets. Folks, I'm here to tell you, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Right?
Ron, it's
Oh,
quite wild, and the laws, the tax laws in the US can be quite aggressive compared to, other places in the world. But what's like the implication on those companies, those consultants that filed, those credits on behalf of the small businesses?
a lot of them are gone. A lot of them you can't find. There were a lot of overseas companies, and I don't want to point towards one nation or another, but there were a lot of fraudulent companies that popped up that were actually overseas individuals who were behind a lot of these mills. And it's sad because the taxpayer is the one who ends up having to clean up the mess and having to deal with the penalties and having to deal with the financial strain now. It's sad. But
That's a very, very terrible situation to be in. And I always advise people, always read your contracts. There's a reason why, you know, it is a contract. There's a reason why at the bottom they tell you, have you read the terms and conditions? Do you agree to the terms and conditions? It's always very, very important. But at the same time, the the pattern is just, oh, let's just scroll to the bottom and, hit agreed. You a lot of times don't know if you are selling your life away or selling your
so
future away.
true.
It's
So true. And it's sad because a lot of the business owners who are targeted are the ones who are very small, who don't have a lot of money to invest in having an attorney that they can reach out to when anything pops up, or somebody who maybe does their own tax returns, who doesn't have a CPA or an enrolled agent that they can reach out to. And these companies know it. They target this level of small business for a reason. So,
And that is why companies like my own company exist. It's a fractional CFO
correct.
advisory practice. So we understand that or would I say most small businesses cannot afford, a proper chartered accountant, a proper certified public accountant. But we offer that service, the same level of quality that the big dogs, have access to, having access to a person like myself who's done, years with the global big four accounting firms, just offer a fraction of their time every month to give you advice, right? To guide you. It's always a good thing to take that option. But I think a lot of clients, a lot of small businesses do not see the value in having a proper, qualified, experienced, you know, technically competent financial advisor until they
And
get into trouble.
well, and to that, there's that famous saying, you don't know what you don't know. And
Do you think it's not just about not knowing what you don't know, but how about the mindset? For some people, some people are proactive, others are reactive.
yes, but here's the thing. When you are bringing somebody into your world where CFO services, right, or accounting, somebody who has a professional schooling, so to speak, and experience, when you reach out to them and say, hey, I would like to meet with you 2 or 3 hours a month, I'd like you to work with my financials because I'm growing, I have places I want to go. But my specialty is in building widgets, right? I know the widget world. I know how to create a wonderful widget. I know how to sell the widget. That's my area of expertise. I don't know so much about running a business. I don't know about financial reports and how they can be used as a tool for me to grow my widget company. I don't know what I don't know. So I'm going to turn to you to help fill this void where that's not my strength, it's not my specialty, but I know I need that to help me realize where I want to go with my widget company. And that's why I don't know what I don't know is a humbling statement for a business owner to say, but one of the most important to be okay with.
Exactly. You cannot know everything.
No, and it's okay that you don't. It is okay. Be excellent at what you specialize in and then compensate for everything else by seeking people who are excellent in those areas. And that is the
Exactly.
sign of a strong leader.
Exactly. Someone was asking me recently about something, and I told them there's a reason why professionals, go to school, spend years, in training to get the technical expertise and competence at something. And there's also a reason why these same set of professionals, work with organizations, for years of their lives to hone their skills, to gain specialized knowledge, in different areas of competences. So you not wanting to consult these people, you not, seeing the need to consult them when you have a problem that relates to their area of competence is a huge disrespect, on the body of work of these people. So the person was asking me something legal related, and I told them, I don't know everything, but I pride myself on the fact that I know where to get information whenever I need it. I'm not a tax expert. Another person was asking me about tax because they knew, oh, he's a chartered accountant. I'm like, I spent my life, doing audits and not tax. You know what? And then I picked up my phone and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, this is a guy who worked in the Big Four with me. He's good
Right.
at tax. He's a tax expert. Let him handle this. And then they were looking disappointed, like, oh, can't you help me with this tax thing? I said, as a professional, you have a responsibility, right, of due care, of professional diligence, professional behavior, right? You cannot consult on an area of expertise that you do not have the requisite, expert knowledge.
Right. I 100% agree.
So
Let
you
me
won't
ask
meet
you this too.
meet you Morgan and tell Morgan to come audit your company.
No. I could fumble my way through it, but that's not my area of expertise. And think about this too. As a business owner, why would you not seek out people who have an intimate knowledge in an area that isn't your area of expertise? Why would you not, this sounds kind of obnoxious, but why would you not exploit their knowledge and their experience to help you in the best way it possibly can? That's essentially what professionals in this area, right? Tax, finance, law, why would you not want somebody to step in and be a member of your bench, so to speak, for your business, your board? Think of them as members of your board. Why would you not want somebody who would be sitting there side by side with you, who has helped hundreds or thousands of other people in these same areas and can apply that experience and that knowledge to help you? That's kind of short-sighted thinking.
I think, yeah, you just summarized it nicely. Short-sighted thinking. That's myopic. I think a lot of people are suffering from not just the physical myopia, but the myopia of the mind. And I don't know who's that eye doctor that can help. That that's not my area of expertise.
You know what? But we've become an instant gratification society. So many
Exactly.
businesses, small businesses fail because the person stops trying. It's like the quote behind you. It's not over when you lose, it's over when you quit. And so many people quit before the magic happens.
Exactly. You know,
So,
uh, winners don't quit and quitters don't win.
mm-mm. So true.
You know, talking about the offering compromise, let's break down the offering compromise. What's a fact and what's a pure fiction?
So anybody in the US has seen the commercials where it's some couple standing on the lawn in front of a big beautiful home and they say, "Oh, I owed $200,000 to the Internal Revenue Service and I hired this company and they got me a settlement for $5,000." Right? the the airwaves, the TV commercials, podcasts are full of this type of advertisement. And this is referring to the offer and compromise program that the federal government in the US offers. And most states do as well. And it's a way to give full financial transparency to the federal and state government and say, okay, I may owe you $200,000, but I don't have any equity in assets. I have a family that I need to tend to the monthly expenses for their health and welfare. And I don't make a lot of money. I don't have any investments. I don't have any assets. really to speak of, so I'm offering to settle this debt at $5,000. The ads are all misleading because it makes you think everybody can petition the IRS or the state for a settlement. But there are really high levels of qualifications that you need to pass in order to propose this type of settlement. And most people don't understand that until they get knee deep. They've hired a firm that loves to promote this as a solution. And then they realize, oh gosh, I don't qualify. I make 150 based on the income levels that the IRS uses for determining acceptance of this program. At the end of the day, I show that I can full pay the debt because I have this income level. I have a home that has equity in it. I have a 401k that my company has had me contributing to for the last 5 years, and it's got $50,000 in it. I have a savings account with $25,000 in it. People don't understand that there are pretty stringent rules around how to qualify for that program. So yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful option if somebody does qualify for it, but you have to qualify. You can't just say, my kids are in private school. I pay $18,000 a year. So IRS, you need to let me keep my children in that school. And the IRS will say, well, guess what? Our federal government provides funding for your public schools. You can take the kids out of private school and pay us that $18,000 a year. And within the next 10 years, you can almost pay this debt back. People want to believe that the pie in the sky being offered to them, everything's rainbows and sunshine, but you do have personal responsibility to address a debt owed to the federal or state governments here in the US. If you have the ability to pay towards it, they want you to pay towards it. And they'll go through a full financial investigation into you and all of your assets and everything reported in your name. We have used it. We do use it as an option if a client will clearly qualify. And if not, I am the bad guy and I say, guess what? I know you've heard these commercials. I know this is very appealing to you, but you won't qualify. And let's talk about why. But there's other options we can look at, and let's focus on those.
So if a person has both IRS and state tax issues, where should they start from?
Great question. The states first. And the reason is because when you're negotiating a settlement or a resolution with the federal government will recognize an obligation you have to the state government, but the states don't always recognize if you have an obligation with the federal government. So we start state first.
Oh, wow, interesting stuff. So
I know.
you've actually seen it all pretty much, So what are the top 3 tax habits that separate financially stable entrepreneurs from those that are heading towards the rocks of disaster?
That's a great question. First and foremost, keeping your finger on your financial pulse at any given time. Most people who end up with a tax debt do so because they're not paying attention to the money that they're earning. They're not keeping an eye if they are employed as a W-2 employee, meaning that taxes are being withheld from their pay. They're not checking to see if they have enough being taken out to cover their annual bill. There are programs online. The IRS has a website, a page where you can go on and check your withholdings to make sure you're having enough withheld. The other thing for self-employed individuals and small businesses, it's keeping track of your profits and what ends up coming through a flow through to your personal income and what that will look like at the end of the year. I have to tell you, I'm in the tax world, right? But I'm on the backside. I deal with tax debt. I'm licensed as an enrolled agent. I could do my own taxes if I wanted, but that's not my area of specialty. So I have somebody who handles that for me. I meet with her monthly. And I say, okay, what do our profit and loss from last month look like? How are we looking for the year? How do we compare to the year prior? Where do you see I need to head? Are there any adjustments you see that I need to make with the taxes I'm paying? Because I want to make sure we stay ahead of it. People are inherently afraid to sit down and do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. They're intimidated to look at their numbers.
You're delaying the inevitable.
Yes, absolutely. I would rather know in May if I need to make a tax strategy pivot to get ahead through the rest of the year, right? Than find out in November or December, oh gosh, I'm going to owe $20,000 on my taxes because I didn't plan ahead. Or something big happened in my business, a huge financial jump, and I've got this tax consequence as a result of it. I view my tax specialist, my enrolled agent, as a member of my board. So she is very involved with what's going on in our company, the financial moves that we make, because it helps us stay ahead and plan for the next step that we'll take in the next strategy pivot we'll make.
Speaking of staying ahead, right? I do understand that a lot of business owners are not, would I say, financial literate, right? They don't have the level of financial understanding and expertise that yourself and myself are privileged, to have. Because sometimes I think about it, the reason why we know what we know and we are able to be proactive and stay on top of these financial related issues. It's not because we are better than other people. It's just that we're just fortunate to have landed ourselves within the financial education space. When you think about it, yourself and myself, there's a lot we don't know when it comes to medical related issues.
Right, right.
And it's because we weren't fortunate enough to land ourselves within that space, that in terms of education. So sometimes you need to be empathetic towards those people.
I agree. I agree. The thing is, when you run a business, you have an obligation to understand. You don't have to know everything about your financial condition,
Mhm.
but you should invest in working with somebody who can explain it to you so that you can take that information and make educated decisions moving forward.
It reminds me of a small business I was advising recently.
Shoot. Hold on. I'm so sorry.
So some of the small businesses they actually make the wrong decisions due to not having the right tools. I'll give an example of a small business owner that I have advised recently. So it's pretty much a family-owned business, and they were having what I say disputes amongst the owners. However, I discovered their accounting software was not an appropriate one, or would I even say they did not have a proper accounting system. So if you don't have a proper accounting system, you won't have proper records. And without, proper records, you don't have accountability and transparency, which is required for sustainable business. And also, there are some accounting tools. I don't want to give a cheap plug to the one that I use because they are yet to sponsor my podcast, and I pay their monthly subscription. But I would just say that this particular tool actually gives you heads up in terms of your tax filings, your VAT, your company income tax. So it's always good to have these kind of tools. So that being said, based off your own, wealth of experience, what would you advise, or what are the tools, the top tools that you would advise small business owners to utilize in terms of staying ahead when it comes to their tax compliance?
Software is such a personal choice. It really is. There are so many industry specific CRMs that will work with that will actually do the accounting work for you based on jobs. Like I have a client who is a roofer, and their CRM is actually built to keep track of all of the expenses that they have for each job, and then it provides a whole company summary. So it really depends on what software is available to your industry. I would say more instead of the what tech tools to use. Instead of that, I would say to use a good bookkeeper and a good accountant. Those are the top two tools that I could say every business will benefit from.
Are a good bookkeeper, a good accountant. But the interesting thing is, I think a lot of these small businesses, especially the proper small businesses, do not see the need for a proper accountant. And in the defense, a lot of them cannot even afford an accountant.
No, I know. The hard part is, again, it goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about you don't know what you don't know. And if you are trying to keep your books for yourself, you don't know what is always a legitimate business expense and what should be written off that you're not writing off. So that costs you money. And then if you're trying to do your annual tax returns on your own, again, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that you're claiming everything that you can to benefit yourself from a tax strategy position. So yes, it does cost money to tap these resources. Maybe if you're just starting out, get with a bookkeeper to have them show you the generic ropes of keeping the books for your specific type of business. They may charge you a few hours of time to teach that to you and to help you properly classify expenses and keep track of expenses that you should be keeping track of. But it's going to be worth it to have that training. You absolutely cannot pay for somebody to do your annual returns. Make sure you do your homework. You can't just buy a program, answer some questions, and make sure that it is properly having you report everything. You're going to have to, instead of spending money, you're going to have to invest time.
Money, time,
Hold on
and
just a second. I hear him coming back in. Sorry.
so that's expending a lot of time, money, and you left out the emotional energy.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Right.
A lot of emotional energy actually goes, or would I say, gets drained when it comes to these tax issues. And of course, to the audience, anytime myself and Morgan, gets on, what would I say, on a call, on a camera, and anywhere, it's always a very, very long session. But of course, we all know that to be the best, you have to always, get on the grind. And Morgan is a very busy person, and Morgan would have to fly off to her pilot duties very soon.
I'm so sorry, but I've got to put on my armor and go fight the good fight.
So I think we will just move on to the quick fire round. That is, the 5 quick fire round questions. We know you're going for the 40, is a 40 question fire round very soon at your program.
Right.
But this is 5 questions. So
Okay.
are you ready to rumble?
I am ready. Do I need to
Okay.
stretch?
So number 1, a tax myth you wish would disappear forever.
That the tax agencies are big, hairy, nasty, three-headed monsters. Yeah, they're
Okay.
not. You can deal with them.
Number 2, what's your go-to strategy when a client calls in full-blown panic?
First thing I always tell them to do is take a deep breath. There's always a solution.
There goes my solution. Okay, so number 3, what's the most jaw-dropping IRS case you've ever resolved?
There was a family conglomeration. We started with over 80 LLCs that were all related, and we ended up closing out a bunch of them, but between the ones that remained open, they owed over 32 million in payroll taxes. And we were able to keep them out of the Department of Justice. We were able to keep them from any asset seizures or really aggressive collection actions, and we ended up resolving all the cases. It's a lot of money.
Sounds totally amazing.
It's a lot of
Number 4, what's one daily habit that keeps you grounded under pressure?
working out.
I love
Working
that.
out, taking care of my body, going, even if it's just going for a 20-minute walk with the dog. It's important to stop and take a deep breath and look around you and realize all that is in this world. And it helps you put things in perspective.
A lot of people do not appreciate that mind-body connection. So for athletes, a lot of them build their bodies, forget about building the minds. For professionals like us, a lot of us build our minds without building the body. So there has to be a balance both ways. So number 5, what's a quote or mantra that guides your leadership?
There are 7 days of the week, and someday is not one of them.
Wow, I like that. Someday is not
Yeah.
one of them, but Sunday is one of them.
Sunday is one of them for certain. For certain.
Uh,
No, and the reason I say that is because I think a lot of people come up with wonderful ideas and say, okay, someday we'll do that. Someday I'll get to that. Someday I will try tapping this new way of attracting clients to us. And someday doesn't come about for so many people. So
Tomorrow never dies.
no, it's all about taking action.
So we have actually come to the end of this session. The toughest thing to always say is goodbye.
I
But
know.
before we say goodbye, do you want to leave a shout out to anyone? And what's your last piece of advice, to people out there, especially someone watching or listening today that is at rock bottom, feeling afraid, feeling ashamed, and feeling convinced that there's no way out? What's that one powerful truth you would like them to remember?
It's really the title of my book. There's always a solution. No matter what challenge you are facing right now, personal, emotional, financial, business, there's always a solution. There just is. Don't lose hope and don't quit before the magic happens.
Don't quit. And of course, quitters don't win, winners don't quit. To our audience, please do the needful, share, like, subscribe, and of course, take
Absolutely.
Morgan's advice. Pilot Morgan would tell you to to do the needful, and of course, it's wonderful that Pilot Morgan is the very first individual I'm interviewing in this new look studio. So
Yeah,
uh,
it's
who better
amazing.
who better to launch it with than the lifelong friend that
Yeah.
I've made in the world of podcasting. And I hope there will be greater heights to come. So you are the beginning of the new era for this podcast, and this is episode 101 of the.
Congratulations to
Thank you
you,
very
my
much.
friend.
Thank you very much.
You
Appreciate it.
have so many wonderful things to share with people. You
Mhm.
really do. And you have a talent for putting everything into a digestible way. And just thank you for being here. And it's an honor to be on your podcast.
For me, I always say an attitude of gratitude is good attitude. And of course, when a person shares their life with you, sharing their time with you, rather, they're sharing their life with you, because the SI unit of measuring life is time. And from me to you, once again, it's, love and respect. I appreciate you so much. And of course, my gratitude to you is very, very profound. You have been supportive in, multiple ways, and that's should never be taken, for granted. So love and respect to you. And of course, till I
And
come
you.
your way, and of course the audience's way again, guys, look after yourselves. And of course, sharing is caring, and do share this so we can increase our growth, our impact, our reach. And I'll keep working tirelessly to ensure that I bring fantastic, tremendous, amazing individuals like Morgan Anderson. For me, it's goodbye.